March 1st, and it has been almost 2 weeks since I returned from our trip to Death Valley. And the skies overhead now here in Zion are blue, and just a couple little clouds up there. A little hint of wind, and it feels a little bit like spring right now. But the reason I came here to Zion is that, well, there's a winter storm on the way. And this is something that I've had my eye on for a while now, trying to find some chance of being here when there's some snow and ice. And it's been a very unusually warm winter. But I've had time to get my film back from the lab and scan the images, and there's 5 images I'm very satisfied with from my Death Valley visit. So I feel like this trip is a bit more of a bonus. So I'm just gonna wander a little bit, enjoy the sights and the sounds. In the coming days, it's gonna transition to be a little bit more like winter. So it is midday now, and the skies overhead are quite cloudy. The sun's not poking through anymore. It was this morning. And I checked up on a subject that I had mentioned in my fall series here from Zion, where there was this dead ponderosa and another fallen dead ponderosa, then a living ponderosa. It was kind of leaning. And I just checked up on that to see if I can have some ideas for a composition. It could be for this trip, maybe if we get a little snow, or at least a sunny morning perhaps. Could be for the fall, but we'll see on that. And then I checked up on my little cactus friend, and I saw that it has collapsed a little bit under its own weight. And so it could very well be that the opportunity I had to photograph it in the fall was the best time for that, because it definitely has a different appearance now. But I came over here to this area with this wonderful little pine tree set against some rolling hills of slick rock, all these swirly patterns. And this is an area I tried to photograph a while back, but I just couldn't get very good light on it. And so I'm wondering if we get a little snow, if it'll work for it or not. So we'll see on that. But the skies overhead are quite stormy. The wind has been picking up at times. It's supposed to start raining in a few hours, and then overnight that will likely turn to snow. So we'll see how it is. But this is a bit unusual just from the standpoint that usually when I go on these trips, I have this really strong drive to find subjects, to expose film. But coming from my trip to Death Valley, where I have 5 photos I'm very satisfied with, I don't have that same sort of drive. I'm more in a just wander around, explore, check up on subjects, all that sort of stuff, which is very important. But also the conditions where it's very windy, it's overcast. It's not really ideal for this sort of photography anyway. So this is all about getting here ahead of the storm and then seeing what opportunities exist during and after the storm. But I'm gonna keep wandering here and see what else we can find. Well, it is midday now, and this morning I got up pretty early and I went over to the area that I was scouting out yesterday morning. And I was hoping there'd be some snow, but it didn't snow overnight at the higher elevations. And there wasn't a lot of rain either. It rained a little bit last night, and this morning as I was wandering around, you can see how there was a little bit of evidence of water flowing through the washes, but it had all soaked into the sand. And it wasn't until maybe about an hour ago that I found some stretches that have some pretty big pools of water. And following the storm, it's going to get a bit colder. So tomorrow morning, I'll need to revisit those areas and see about finding some potential subjects. But since it's been very windy today, and since there's been a lot of clouds in the sky that just make the light very flat, it's not really conducive for the type of photography I do. But it gives me an excuse to do some wandering. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been checking out some new areas I've never been to before. And even though there's a lot of the same elements in terms of the type of plants and the type of stone and the colors and textures, but you go to another area you've never been before and just everything is just different enough where it just sparks whatever it is in my brain that just gets excited about finding new subjects. So I'm just gonna sit here and enjoy the view for a little while longer and take a little break from the wind and then see what else I could find. So I went back to my truck and grabbed my camera. It's kind of weird. This is the first time that I've had my camera on my back on this trip. But I found a scene that has an interesting foreground with some rolling hills of sandstone with this very interesting texture. And in the background is a large sandstone formation. And I figured a shot like that would be good for a day with some clouds, like today. And I highly doubt that it's actually going to work out today between the wind and who knows what kind of weather is on its way. But sometimes it's nice to at least put a composition on a scene, see how it looks for future reference. So we'll see how it goes. Not too bad. The wind has calmed down a bit, and I've exposed 3 sheets of Provia as the sun hits that large sandstone mesa there. I don't know. We'll see. But it definitely feels great to expose some film. Using my wide angle lens, this interesting sandstone in the foreground, and it's not often that I photograph these big scenes, so I have no clue how Provia is going to handle this, but according to the light meter, the brightest clouds are just over +2, and the darker areas in the foreground here are at about -1.7, 1.8, so it should be within the range of the film. And there's just a tiny little bit of a sleet falling right now. But not bad. Well, it's a little after 3 o'clock. And after exposing those, there's actually ended up being 4 sheets of Provia on the scene. I went back to my truck and put my camera gear back there, and while I was scouring around where I was and checking out the place, I saw another area that's a little further away that I realized I've never really been to before, so here I am. Just doing a little bit of scrambling around and just get to know the place. A little bit chaotic over here. And also pretty slow going because there's this moss that grows in the rocks, and when it gets wet, it's like ice. And it looks like it's dry, but after the rain overnight, there's a bit of moisture there, so you don't want to walk on the dark spots. But absolutely beautiful here. A bit more blue sky now than there was earlier. And there's going to be another chance of rain tonight. Probably not quite as much. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with those areas of standing water that I found, because if it's not disturbed too much by new flowing water, it could very well create some ice, and it should drop well below freezing tonight. But I'm going to keep wandering and see what else I can find. There you go. That was 1 second, F45. It's cold. It's not cold enough for ice. I revisited those puddles that I was hiking along yesterday, and it was close to freezing, but it wasn't quite cold enough. But a little bit of a wind chill effect up here. But I found this scene with these Moki marbles, little round rocks, and they're just laid out in this Y-shaped formation. Initially I was going to try to do a horizontal, but then I decided on a vertical, which I think shows a little bit more flow to it. But I can tell you right now, this is my final photo on this trip, and it's been fun coming here, but then I'm going to get things packed up and head back to camp and wait a few hours till it warms up a little bit, and then probably go for a bike ride up the main canyon in Zion. So that'll be fun. A nice little reward after a bit of work here, just wandering around and finding cool stuff to put my camera at. But fun little bonus trip to Zion. Whew, it's cold. After spending 4 days in Zion, I exposed 6 sheets of film on 2 different subjects. And although I didn't take many photos on this trip, I explored several new areas, laying the groundwork for future visits. My wide-angle photo of the sandstone mesa marks my first grand landscape photograph in Zion, a subject that's deceptively difficult to capture. Thankfully, the light cooperated, and the dynamic range is within the limits of transparency film. I'm also quite satisfied with my photograph of the Moki marbles. My original horizontal composition would have been fine, but this vertical composition has even better visual flow. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you around next time. You may have noticed this video has no ads and no sponsors, and I think it's nicer that way. If you enjoy this ad-free and clickbait-free content and want to help me live my dream, a voluntary contribution through PayPal or by joining my Patreon helps keep my gas tank full and my film freezer stocked. You can find more information by visiting my website at benhorne.com/donate. I also have prints, ebooks, and my annual portfolio is available on my website. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you around next time.